And good morning. We're ready for the second part of our reading lesson. Remember the story we started yesterday, When the Wind Blows from the South? All right, we're going to be on lesson number 2. This is lesson 115. It's the second lesson from When the Wind Blows South. I'll have right there. Lydia, where did you, I can't figure out how to pause this. Where does she need to go?
Just to the front, like just the two big doors.
Okay.
They'll be locked, but yours will be
Okay.
She'll probably just have to stand there for a little bit until somebody sees her.
Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at some vocabulary words from this section. Now remember, we left yesterday, Waldo's amphibious Jeep that he loves so much is stuck on a sandbar, and he went back to the village to spend the night, and now they're going in the morning to see if they can go ahead and get the Jeep and get it off that sandbar. So here's some vocabulary words that we might come across today. Adobe. You can tell an adobe building by its clay and straw bricks. Adobe buildings are very common in the South, especially down in Mexico area. That's what they're built from. But something like this would be considered adobe. Palmettos. Many of the trees growing by the river are palmettos, like a palm tree, but they call them palmettos. All right, let's look at page 384 in your reader book. This is the second part. It's called Iron Bars. All right, remember you're going to follow along with me, so make sure you're open to page 384. Now, as I'm reading and you're following along, I want you to listen and find out what causes Waldo to make an important decision, and was it a wise decision? I'm going to figure out something that he's going to make. I'm kind of scared about the title Iron Bars. That doesn't sound real good. All right, let's look at the top of page 384. You follow along with me. It was low tide when they reached the beach. Alfredo stopped on a sandy rise, and they sat in the cab of the tow truck, staring at the sandbars. Pepe was the first to recover. "This is your Jeep?" Waldo nodded, unable to speak. The Jeep, still on the sandbar, was stripped. The fenders were gone, the wheels were gone, even the hood was gone. Nothing was left but the frame, huddled on the sandbar like a skeleton, and the frame was surrounded by men. "Policia," Alfredo said under his breath. He shifted gears and began to back the truck away. "Wait," Waldo said, opening the door. He slid to the ground and shut the door. "Thank you for coming, Alfredo. I'll take care of things now." "But the policia," Pepe began. Waldo waved and began to walk toward the sandbar. Alfredo looked at Pepe and shrugged. He turned the tow truck around and drove back down the rise toward the road. As Waldo reached the first sandbar, one of the men looked up. Shouting over the surf, he drew his gun. An older man pushed him aside and confronted Waldo. "This is your car, senor?" he asked, black eyes inspecting Waldo narrowly. "Si," Waldo replied. "I got stuck on the sandbar last night, and someone obviously stripped it. Do you know who did it?" The man's gaze never left Waldo's face. Uneasily, Waldo rubbed his face, remembering that he hadn't taken time to shave before leaving the garage. His clothes had been slept in, and he needed a haircut. The usually tidy Waldo felt definitely grubby. Obviously, the man thought so too. A few sharp remarks in Spanish and Waldo was under arrest. Protests made no difference. The other men herded him up in the dunes to the road and thrust him into the police car. They drove back to the village and stopped at a large adobe building. With a sinking heart, Waldo realized that it was the jail. Inside the jail, the iron-barred door clanged shut behind him. Waldo sat down on the narrow cot. They didn't believe him, he knew. He had understood quite a bit of their conversation on the way back to the village. Evidently, smugglers would drive cars into Mexico and leave them at a secret place to be stripped of their merchandise by the receivers. They thought he was a smuggler. Waldo listened unhappily to the excited talk in the office. His capture was something of celebration. Gloomily, Waldo wondered what the punishment was for smuggling. He soon found out. Late that night, he heard a voice at the barred window above him. "Senor!" Waldo saw Pepe's face appear between the bars. Waldo stood on the cot so that they could talk quietly. "We get you out of here," Pepe whispered. "You can't do that," Waldo hissed. I'll get into more trouble. Just wait, and we'll get all this straightened out. That's what the last man said, Pepe whispered back. Waldo blinked. The last man? The law is very strict with smugglers, Pepe said softly. You could be here a long, long time, or you could disappear tomorrow. We must get you out tonight. But a lawyer could prove me innocent at the trial. What trial? No trial. No trial. These men work for smugglers. They think you cut in on their territory. I'll get my things. Waldo hurriedly stuffed his belongings into the knapsack. He strapped it on and waited near the barred door. A slight sound whispered across the silence, and then the outer door opened. In the next moment, Pepe appeared at the door with the key ring. Hurry, he whispered as he opened the door. The watchman will be back in a minute. Waldo hurried after him silently. They slipped out the door and into an alleyway where another shadowy figure waited. Alfredo should be home with Teresa. Waldo whispered fiercely, And you? You're too young to be involved in something like this. Alfredo is home with Teresa, Pepe whispered back. Waldo heard the hint of a smile in his voice as he continued. This is my cousin Sancho. As for being too young, it is said that I am old for my age. The darker figure nodded quickly and whispered, Vamos, vamos. Speechless, Waldo followed as Sancho led the way. The moon was no longer full, but still shed too much light for comfort. The two men and the boy kept to the darker shadows of the back streets. At the edge of the village, Sancho led them to the tree-covered bank of a creek. He parted a clump of palmettos, revealing a small reed boat. Aquí, he said softly, pointing to the boat. Vaya con Dios. Gracias, Sancho, Waldo said, and may God be with you also. Come, Pepe motioned toward the boat. Waldo helped push the boat into the river. Then, stepping quickly in, they picked up the paddles. The boat slid silently away from the bank and drifted down the creek. Where are we going? Waldo asked. Shh! Pepe lowered his voice. Sound travels on the water. Waldo hushed and paddled. Dip and push, dip and push. It seemed like hours as they paddled down the creeks, across the shallow lagoons, and through swamps. The occasional splash of a wakeful caiman tightened Waldo's nerves. As they passed beneath a high bank, something dropped from a root and slid silently into the water beside the boat. What was that? A snake, Pepe answered. Waldo shuddered and paddled faster. The boat entered a large lagoon. Pepe motioned toward a light at the end of the lagoon. In a few minutes, the boat scraped against a wooden dock. As Pepe led the way toward a shack on the bank, the door opened. The light outlined the bulk of a man holding a rifle. Waldo tensed. And that's where we stopped. So Waldo had to make the decision to escape. Do you think it was right for him to escape? Maybe in that situation it was right. What do you think? Let's look at some review questions. So what do Alfredo, Pepe, and Waldo see when they arrive at the sandbar? The police are standing around Waldo's Jeep that's been stripped. Why is Waldo eager to talk to the police? Because in America, the police will help you. But not in Mexico. It's not like in the United States. The police aren't there to help you. So why does Waldo think the police arrest him? He looks grubby and dirty, and they think he's a smuggler, smuggling drugs. How does the author make you uncertain but eager of the outcome of the story? We get to the very end of this part, and you see this man standing there with a rifle, and it stops for the next section. So you need to close your book. And this is what we need to think about for the next thing for tomorrow. Is the man with the rifle a friend or an enemy? We're going to find that out tomorrow. So close your book and get out your work text. Now, you are going to have a work text page to do for a grade, and that's going to be work text page 152, but I'm going to help you with work text page 153. So go ahead and get that out. Okay. At the top of page 153, there's a chart. It's for a Mexican airport, kind of like what's on the screen. And it has the flight numbers, the destination. Destination is where they're going. The gate number and the departure time. Departure is when they're leaving. Okay, so we have to use that chart and to figure out the schedules for the questions, okay? So let's look at number 1. If you wish to go to Guadalajara, Mexico, which flight number would you take? Well, look at the destination and go down until you find Guadalajara, Mexico. That's the destination. That's where you want to go. So if you wanted to go there, which flight number would you take? Go to the left. That's the flight number. It would be flight number 705. So that's your answer to number 1 from reading the chart, 705. Okay, number 2. If you missed flight 562 to Houston, Texas, what's the next flight that you might take? Okay, so let's go down and find flight 562. Okay, and go over the destination's Houston. Now, if you missed that flight, what's the next flight that you could take? We'll look right down below it. The next flight is going to Houston, Texas, and it's flight number 723. So that's the answer to number 2. Okay, number 3. How many flights leave from gate 3? Well, look up where it says gate and find all the ones that say gate 3. How many are there that leave from gate 3? Looks like there's only 2. Okay. Question number 4. If you're still waiting to board a plane at gate 9 at 10 p.m., what is your destination? Okay, so look at gate 9 and the departure time. It says if you're still waiting at 10 o'clock p.m. at gate number 9, what is your destination? Caracas, Venezuela. I don't know if you can see my screen, but it's making all kinds of colors. I think it's because my screen is getting old and I'm going to have to buy a new monitor. So number 4, your destination would be Caracas, Venezuela. Okay, number 5. If it's now 2:15 p.m. and Waldo has to leave Mexico quickly, which flight would he try to take? It's 2:15 p.m. So look at the departure time and find whichever one that's closest to 2:15 p.m. Which one do you think he would take? Looks like the next one would be flight number 842. That leaves at 3:23, and that's the closest one. If he's ready at 2:15, but there's not a flight at 2:15, he has to wait until 3:23. So just over an hour he has to wait for the next flight. Number 6. What time does the flight to Monterrey leave? Okay, look under the destination until you find Monterrey, Mexico. And then go over to the departure time. What time does it leave? 1:15 p.m. Okay, and number 7. If you are rushing to gate 3 to catch flight 742, what is your destination? Did you find it? Flight 742 is Mexico City, Mexico. That's the answer to number 7. Okay, so finish writing those down. Okay, your assignment is to complete page 152. There's only 8 questions. You got to circle the right one, and it's for a grade, okay? All right, and be ready to figure out what happens tomorrow. All right, that's all for today.